Hey, deserving listeners, it's time for me to react to your comments from my videos from last week. Let's get to it. But before I do, it's Super Bowl Sunday, and go Cincy, I guess, because they're the underdog, and screw the Rams. Also, I want to tell you a dream I had last night about Jesse. I had a dream. I mean, it makes sense. It's all I do all day is watch these shows and react to it and post the videos and think about it. Anyway, so I had a dream about Jesse. He was making a bouquet. His job was to make bouquets of flowers for people. And he was making some bouquets and like some table settings of flowers or something and in some vases. And I noticed that he was really sad. And so I came with Stacey, my wife was there. We came up to him and we were friends with him. And I said, how's it going? And he was like, he was really insecure. He's like, I don't know. I mean, I'm always putting lilies in these bouquets, and I just feel like they look terrible. I don't understand why I keep putting lilies. I mean, look at that one. There's like, it's mostly lilies, and it just looks awful. I just don't know what's wrong with me. And he was like really distressed, very demoralized and sad and self-hating. And he was sitting down, putting flowers in, and I said, hey, stand up, and I said, come here. And I hugged him, and I got a little choked up in my dream. I got a little teary, and I said, hey, I think your bouquets are beautiful, and lilies are wonderful. And if anyone doesn't like it, they can go to hell. And you're a good person. You matter. And then I woke up. I mean, tell me what that dream means. And I don't know, I get a little teary thinking about it. And I'm trying to think of why. Oh, it's because I was chatting with Umberto about the new documentary Tinder Swindler. And I was talking about how there's this Instagram presentation thing that a lot of guys will have, and Jesse being one of them, and how it seems to me to be expressing a lot of insecurities. I can't know that. Anyway, just thought I'd share with you a dream. Gino and Jasmine videos. This is the Entertainment Tonight. So it was kind of interesting progression this week for me. I watched the Entertainment Tonight where Jasmine looks totally great. And we hadn't learned about the picture yet. And so it was like, I went from, oh my God, in the beginning I thought, oh my God, they're made for each other. They laugh the same. They have this, there's goofy, she puts up with him, he puts up with her. Then she got abusive, and then I was like, ooh. And then she seemed to recognize that she makes mistakes, and I was like, oh, okay, well, actually, that shows a lot. And then I saw the Entertainment Tonight video, and I thought, oh, they're golden. This is going to be fine. And then we saw the picture, and I'm all over the place. But anyway, so going back to the Entertainment Tonight interview with Jasmine, Heatherian says, I now have a completely different view of Jasmine. To hear her speaking of herself in this way has been so great. She owns her issue and isn't blaming anyone. Agreed. But then another video, the naked photos video, Namo says, Gino didn't necessarily seem remorseful for what he did. He seems to have regret for getting caught. Yeah, it certainly looked that way. Jen Fine says, I used to always post, run, Gino, run. But after this reveal, I will now change it to run, Jasmine, run. Yeah, it certainly took a turn. I mean, anyway, yeah. And then the fight continues. Moo says, maybe Gino does openly compare them both on a regular basis, and we just don't get to see it. Right, I mean, this is part of a longer comment about, remember, Jasmine was very upset about being, she's like, you're always comparing me to these past women, and we didn't see any evidence of that, but of course we know that it's a reality TV show, and we're only seeing literally like 0.1% of the time they spend together. And it didn't seem, she didn't have any data to back it up. It just seemed, in the midst of all the things she was saying, just another random accusation that didn't have any basis. But after seeing this, you have to wonder, well, wait, does it have basis? Because he does compare. Absolutely he compares in one direction. We don't know about the other direction, but Danielle and Mohamed, going way back, Emerald says, Danielle is the cast member I understand the least on this show. That happy and gleeful look she gets when she says she wants to deport him, and the way she regresses whenever she's hurt. Yeah, I would agree. I don't know what ranking relatability Danielle would be, but yeah, I would imagine for a lot of people watching, Danielle is not very relatable given her reactivity. She definitely presents in some odd ways that I've made some hypotheses about. Meb says, no idea what were Mohamed's intentions about getting married, and if he was in it for the green card only. But I want to point out that arranged and traditional marriages are still very much common from his neck of the woods. By the way, I noticed in the comments people saying neck of the woods. Are y'all saying neck of the woods? I know that's not my phrase, but I feel like it's kind of a weird... Every time I say neck of the woods, I feel a little funny. I feel like an old fuddy-duddy. Even saying fuddy-duddy is like a fuddy-duddy because that's what my mom used to say. But anyway, are y'all saying more neck of the woods phrasing because I'm saying it? I'm just curious. Or am I just not aware of that phrase being used a lot more common? I mean, like I said, I didn't invent the phrase. It's not... Anyway. People would get married in this neck of the woods after knowing a person for a couple months on the idea that love can blossom afterwards. If not love, there will be compassion, understanding, and affection between two people that carry them for a lifetime. Getting a green card and hope for a better life was probably a major player in his decision. The unemployment rate in Tunisia amongst the younger generation was over 40% pre-COVID. Wow. Yeah, absolutely. And I need to continually be reminded of this by some of y'all in the comments because it's so hard for me to relate to being raised in Seattle. We're so far from that in mainstream Seattle culture. The arranged marriage and the marriage with an idea that, well, maybe I'll love them in the future. I mean, it's so foreign to mainstream culture, Seattle culture, which is where I'm from. So even though I know that, and even though people have commented before, it's like I still need to... That's right. It's like... So Mohamed, let's say, because I keep wondering, like, did he love her? Was he only in it for the green card? And the markers that I'm looking for with Mohamed is any evidence of affection or love that could have ever existed. Because in my book, the only way to, from my cultural pocket, the only way to make it something that wasn't lying is if he, 70% was legit in love, passionately in love with her. And then it diminished once they started to fight, which could have happened. But there was no evidence of that. But of course, what Meb is saying is like, well, actually, from his neck of the woods, it's not uncommon, even in your own town, to get married in an arranged or a traditional manner in which you just figure, well, we're compatible. This is going to be a good arrangement, and we'll fall in love, but maybe we won't. But we'll mutually respect each other. We'll work together. We'll care about each other as companions or family members. And so, if you were in that mindset, which could absolutely be the case for Mohamed, you wouldn't see passion and that desire of like I must have you. The way that Mike and Natalie were when they first met, or Julia and Brandon were when they get off the plane and see each other. Because we didn't see that doesn't mean that Mohamed was lying, for example. But it still it still means there's a question mark there, but it does qualify the question quite a bit. The other thing that is good, I didn't know that pre-COVID, meaning that post-COVID is even worse, almost half of the younger generation were unemployed, which is, that's shocking. Half. I'm just trying to think, like, during the Great Depression in the United States, I think unemployment was like a third. And that was, like, in the United States, the worst economic moment we've ever had in this country. And I think it was because it doesn't take much unemployment to destroy an economy and a community, right? So 40%, that's shocking. And so you could imagine someone being like, well, if I can arrange a marriage with someone that lives in an area where employment is better, win-win, right? Yeah. Darcy and Stacey, Be Like Ray episode. Every once in a while, I have a title that I like. I mean, did anyone get it? The Be Like Ray, Be Like Mike, Ray Allen, Georgie Be Like, I don't know. I just kind of liked it. Everyone, because I title every one of these videos, and half the time I'm like, what do I call this one? I'll just be like, well, kitchen fight. Because I'm so busy and I'm not creative in that way. And so, but every once in a while I'm like, and I think I had it originally as a different title. I was like, wait, as I was compiling it, I actually deleted it. I was, oh no, you got to take a little bit of self-pride every now and then. But Vesey says, regarding the people that tell Dr. Honda he talks a lot, what? Right. So in this video, I was talking about how one person, I don't know, a couple people were criticizing me, saying, they emailed me actually, and they said, look, Kirk, I really love your videos, and I've been watching for a long time, but lately, my God, you talk so long in between the clips. You'll show a 3-second clip and you'll talk for 15 minutes. I just can't take it anymore. And like I said, in the Darcy and Stacey video, there are some criticisms, many criticisms, that will get past my very thin skin and be a dagger into my heart, and I literally won't be able to sleep at night. Like it gets under my skin. It gets to me. This one does not. I have always known that I'm a talker, and I'm not precious about that. And frequently, in a very non-self-shaming way, I'm like, Kirk, just tone it down. Like, stop talking so much. I mean, I'm not one of those people at a party that talks a lot. I'm not like that. But if you ask me a question, and my mom is like, I get this after my mom. My mom is absolutely like this. If you ask my mom a question, like, how was your day? She'll start from the beginning. She'll be like, well, it all started when I was born in 1944. Like, you just feel like, but she's interesting, like she's engaging. She's fun, and, I don't know. So you're sort of like, well, okay, I guess let's buckle up. Let's get cozy and listen to this long story. So anyway, I didn't mind. And I think it is a good principle to follow, because sometimes when I am commenting on videos, about halfway through, I'm repeating myself. And I'm like, Kirk, because it's another thing as a professor, as a therapist too, because a professor, therapist, you're often talking. And it's not great as a therapist to be yammering all the time. And as a professor, obviously you're paid to talk a lot, but you also should listen. You also should elicit conversation and discussion from the students. And I am one of those professors that probably should shut up more. So I'm okay with that. I'm not hurt by it. But there were a number of comments defending me, which is great. And you understand me. You know me. I can tell, because it helped. Because I was like, I'm not going to say it didn't sting at all when I heard, So, there are a lot of people saying like, no, I've never thought you talk too much. In fact, talk more. That's why we don't come here to watch the show. We come here to hear your take on it. Having said that, I will say that it's always a concern of mine that I make content that is interesting. I watch a lot of YouTube channels. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and there are some content providers where I'm like, get to the point. So get to the point, Kirk. Political Troll says, for those who don't follow sports, Ray Allen was caught in a catfishing scandal in 2017 or so. A stalker posed as an attractive woman online and fooled Ray into getting personal details and tried to blackmail him. Ray sued him in court, the catfisher. Just imagining what Darcy's reaction would be if she were in a relationship with Ray. Would she freak out and leave? Right. So I didn't realize it was that long ago, but yeah, Ray Allen was blackmailed, and it was a whole thing. And his, family had to go through all that. The kids, the wife, extended family, everyone had to learn that Ray Allen was flirting with women and seeing all the details. And then you have to wonder, is that the tip of the iceberg? Who knows? But so when, Darcy is going to Georgie and saying, I want you to be more like Ray, it's like, well, are you sure? because Georgie's never even done anything close to that. By the way, I'm going to call it Omicron hair because, Omicron is spiking. It's starting to come down. Thank God. But we're still not out of the woods yet. And I haven't gone to the hair cutter place. And so I've been cutting my own hair again, which is not great. I can't wait to get back. I feel like maybe one more week and it will be Omicron free. Anyway, so Darcy and Stacey, the Michael Beach Bully episode. Yeesh. Kamani says, firstly, I love this channel and have been watching since the beginning of the pandemic 2 years ago. I think this Michael guy triggers Dr. Honda more than anyone else, more than Colt, more than Jesse, more than Darcy and Stacey's other friends combined. Wait, so Kamani is saying, I love this channel and I've been watching Kirk, for 2 years. I've never seen him more triggered than he does by this Michael guy. And I would agree. I mean, there were some moments that I can think of, like Ash's video. I wasn't triggered in the same way but it was so cringy to watch Ash give that talk. And he's since felt mortified about it. I talked with him about it. I was on his pod. He actually invited me on his channel or something. And he's mortified. He's like, yeah, I wasn't prepared. I don't know what I was talking about. And I'm trying to think of who else. I was also thinking about way back when Darcy goes to the Netherlands and Jesse had a friend. Do you remember, like, hair kind of guy? And he was just berating Darcy. I mean, I remember getting real triggered. I remember getting real triggered by Summit when Summit was telling Jenny to calm down. Oh, boy. Oh, ugh, that really. And then there's got to be, Darcy's been kind of triggering me, and Stacey have been triggering me a lot lately themselves. Yeah, but not nearly as much. Michael was like this exaggerated, like, exaggerated version of Darcy and Stacey's friends' attitude towards Georgie. Anyway, I'm trying to think. I know there's some others people that I would just go, ugh. And but yeah, I don't think it's ever been as bad as Michael. There was something about him because it was so, I don't know how to say it. I know I've run into people like him before. So, and really who hasn't, I think. But so there's that. But I also think he was just so sure of himself. When Darcy gets upset, she seems fragile. Darcy seems fragile. Stacey seems fragile. But this guy, he came out like standing tall and sure of himself and aggressive from the beginning. And, because with Darcy, we have an hypothesis about why she would be that way, why she would distort, if this is a reflection of reality, the TV show, then we understand, she went through a lot, bullying and relational traumas and other things we could hypothesize and speculate about. So if this show is a reflection of reality, Darcy's behavior comes from although it's odd, we could see it coming from a place of pain. Michael, it's not like he was triggered. He himself was triggered. He was like, because I didn't show when they were talking with him prior, Darcy and Stacey go to him and they're just talking about it. And he's just like, how are things going? And then they start saying, well, he had money in a sock. And then he just immediately is like, I'm going to get him. I'm going to show him what's what. And there's just something about that attitude, that kind of attitude of like, I rule the world kind of a thing. I am the pinnacle of human beings. I can tell anyone to do anything, and I will do anything. I'll do anything I want. I will say anything I want. I'll threaten anyone I want, and then I'll turn around and act like you're the one that's freaking out. And it seemed like he'd done this many times before. Of course, I can't tell. But do we really think that this guy has never talked to anyone else in an unfair manner of this sort before? Do we really feel like this is his first rodeo when it comes to this kind of talk? I'm guessing he's been doing this since he was 4. Like, I could see it at every age. I'm sure if we met someone that knew him in the 4th grade, they'd say, oh, no, he was like that in the 4th. I don't know that, but I wouldn't be surprised. And there's something about that, seeing that and then seeing just speculating, just a wake of destruction and entitlement and aggression and threats, and then, hey, calm down. Or I'm sorry if I'm intimidating you, that kind of attitude. It just... Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've seen a lot of behavior. Why this one? Yeah, it must have something. Maybe it's if I was outside of me right now, to be like, well, Kirk, if I was my own supervisor, I would say, well, we tend to get most emotional about things that we hate about ourselves. So what is it about this guy that represents some kind of self-hatred that I'm denying about me? Entitlement, saying too much, acting like a know-it-all. I mean, these are all things I might kind of hate myself for. Talking too much. I don't threaten people, though. I mean, I have in my youth. It wasn't like that was beyond me. It wasn't a regular part of my life, though. I don't know. I have to give us some more thought. Julia says, I've always hoped that Darcy and Georgie would work things out, but not any longer. From what they show us on the show, Georgie should not have put up with this. Yeah, it's interesting, and there are a number of comments like this, like saying, I feel like Darcy has finally broken me. I was always on her side. I would see how she would have problems, but after this episode, I'm done. I can't anymore. It's like the behaviors reached a critical mass, and I think people, and for me too, like, it was one thing to see Darcy struggle, like I said, and be fragile and have distortions. To see this happen with Michael, and to see Darcy and Stacey tell Georgie to calm down multiple times and not to do anything. Now, she did apologize, but it wasn't sufficient. But it was an apology, so I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens in the future. If it's right back to where it started with Darcy and Georgie, and Darcy continues to lay into him, and the friends lay into him, and Stacey lays into him about putting his own money in a sock, by the way, then I think it's hard to root for her in terms of, I mean, of course I would always root for her, but the hope and the prognosis would not be great. But maybe this is the beginning of a new chapter. Maybe Michael showing Darcy how ridiculous it looks and seeing Georgie be super cool, and then seeing Georgie accept the apology so readily. Maybe this was the test that Darcy needed Georgie to pass, which is unfair to do, but I could see that happening. Hopefully it will. Hopefully it will. Julian says, hi, Dr. Honda. I really appreciate seeing you lose your patience over Darcy and Stacey. It really is abusive to Georgie. I'm rooting for Darcy as much as the next person, but at this point, it's like she's trying to sabotage things. I can't wrap my head around these women anymore. I used to understand them as two women going through the things all of us women have, but at this point, I don't want to understand them anymore. The fact that Georgie wants to be in this relationship at this point is mind-blowing. Yeah. Tanya and Sinjin. So this is as they're breaking up. Alicia says, like Darcy, Tanya doesn't understand that her partner, Sinjin, is a human with his own wants and needs. She just wants someone to slot into her life without requiring any compromise from her. Yeah, I mean, my take on the situation is that Tanya isn't as far down the road as Darcy. But I think it has that flavor to it, for sure. Good old Lavender says, as always, the most frustrating thing about Tanya is she doesn't practice what she preaches. These two, Tanya and Sinjin, met while Tanya was on vacation visiting another dude. This whole I need structure thing became an issue as soon as Sinjin moved to the U.S. And even so, when he moved there, Tanya was a bartender in between jobs with no place to stay. Yeah, and there's just so many pieces of evidence along those lines. You know, it's not like Tanya is this super successful, stably employed individual. So we could almost imagine that she's part of that self-hatred and she projects and then attacks it on the outside of her when in reality she's attacking it on the inside. I don't know. Good old Hoop Gene says, I've kind of been where Tanya is, actually. I fell in love with a guy who probably wasn't right for me, and maybe I should have seen the signs, but by the time I did, I was so desperately in love with him that I would have given anything to see him change. We dated for 7 years. It was so hard to leave him. I kept thinking he would change or I could help him change. It's just that element of love that you can't really control that makes it so hard to see what you really need to do. Yeah, absolutely. And for people that I find that with Tanya, and you know, maybe I'm just biased, but I find that people get real triggered by Tanya or get real angry and judgy towards her. And I think that there are some people that are worthy of some of that vibe. Like Angela, for example. I think you can absolutely have a tone about her behavior. With Tanya, it's never seemed to really match. Of course, not all you, but people who email in and some of the more other comments that are down below. You know, people seem to have a real bone to pick with Tanya, and I've just never really seen it. You know, because she, on my speculative stance, she suffers from relational traumas that were led to codependent personality, which is where you feel your only worth is when you're taking care of someone else's problems and fixing them. It's the only way to actually retain safety in attachment. And so you find people that have problematic behaviors, and then you proceed to try to control it or criticize it or deal with it. And you might also be projecting your own inner problems onto the other person, attacking them for really things you hate about yourself. And we saw evidence of that. She was parentified, taking care of her younger sister, that sort of thing. And so you know, that's what I was seeing. And there were times when she was, you know, pretty rigid. But there are other times when she would warm up and she would take responsibility and she would try to see his point of view and she would try to listen. There are other times when she wouldn't. And Sinjin as well. So I see the two of them as being incredibly relatable and real and authentic and trying and, you know, suffering from very common issues that I see all the time from good people. And I'm guessing if I knew Tanya and Sinjin that I would like them as friends. They seem like lovely individuals. Whereas, you know, someone like Angela, you know, I don't know if I could say the same thing. It may be, but I don't know why I'm saying that. Why am I saying who I'd be friends with? My point is that I see the criticism and I understand it. Of course, there's a thread of, you know, relatability for me in terms of my reaction. But I don't know. I really respect the two of them. And as Hoop Gene is talking about, it's like you fall in love with someone. You can't help who you fall in love with. You just fall in love with someone. And then you're like, oh no, I fell in love with someone that isn't living the sort of life that I want them to lead. How do I get them to change that? Because until they change that, this relationship isn't going to work. So maybe I can get them to change it. Please change that so that we can work, because I want to be with you, you know. And you try, and you know, you try to be nice. You try to put up with it. You try to let it go. You say nice things, and you get angry. You get you know, and this goes on and on for years, and then it's just like, oh, it's just so, I should leave, but I can't. I'm in love with him. I can't. And then eventually you leave. You're like, oh, and it's a tragedy, you know. And I think Hoop Gene went through that, and you know, now it doesn't mean that all of Tanya and Sinjin's behavior is completely above board, right? There are situations where it's just like you have to take responsibility and stop attacking and try to see from the other side of a point of view. But yeah, I mean, so, because I think some of the criticism for Tanya is, well, you should have known better. He was a bartender and da-da-da-da. And it's like, well, have you never fallen in love with someone that you probably regret or shouldn't have fallen in love with? Has that ever happened to you? Like, sometimes you make a mistake. Your heart just loves the wrong person, and you can't pull away. You just desperately try to make it work, and it goes on longer than it should. You know, it happens to people, and it doesn't mean everything's right, but it does contextualize it, I think. Love isn't logical, right? Humans aren't logical. Anyway, it's a good point, Hoop Gene. Thanks for sharing your own experience. All right, y'all. It's time for Super Bowl. Time for 7-layer dip and nachos and ranch dressing with hot wings, pizza, Ruffles sour cream and onion, or the Ruffles chips. Maybe some fruit, maybe like an orange, a sumo orange, one of those big ones. Maybe some beer. So go Cincy, go Joe Burrow, and everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.